Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. I do readings twice a week from various classics. If you subscribe to my free Substack newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of the next episode and can leave your comments or suggestions. And perhaps also browse my flash fiction writings or musings on the world. I will be reading to you from Treasure Island, written by the Scottish novelist Robert Louis Stevenson. It was published in 1883, but is set in the previous century. It's told from the point of view of young Jim Hawkins. Last episode, we learned that the Hispaniola's voyage went well and Treasure Island is near. Jim had climbed into the almost empty apple barrel on deck to grab a snack and overheard a disturbing conversation between Long John Silver and several of the crew. What did he hear? Chapter 11. What I Heard in the Apple Barrel. "No, not I," said Silver. "Flint was captain. I was quartermaster, along of my timber leg. The same broadside I lost my leg, old Pugh lost his deadlights. It was a master surgeon, him that amputated me, out of college and all, lat by the bucket and what not, but he was hanged like a dog and sun-dried like the rest at Corso Castle. That was Robert's men, that was, and come to changing names to their ships, Royal Fortune, and so on. Now what a ship was christened, so let her stay, I says. So it was with the Cassandra, as brought us all safe home from Malabar, and after England took the Viceroy of the Indies, and so it was with the old Walrus, Flint's old ship, as I've seen him muck with the red blood, and fit to sink with gold." "Ah," cried another voice, that of the youngest hand on board, and evidently full of admiration. "He was the flower of the flock, was Flint." "Davis was a man, too, by all accounts," said Silver. "I never sailed along of him, first with England and then with Flint. That's my story, and now here on my own account, as a matter of speaking, I laid by 900 safe from England and 2,000 after Flint. That ain't bad for a man before the mast, all safe in a bank. 'Tain't earning now, it's saving does it, you may lay on that. Where's all England's men now? I don't know. Where's Flint's? Why, most on 'em aboard here, and glad to get the duff. Been begging before that, some on 'em. Old Pugh, as has lost his sight, and might have thought shame, spends £1,200 in a year like a lord in Parliament. Where's he now? Well, he's dead now and under hatches, but for 2 years before that, shiver my timbers, the man was starving. He begged and he stole and he cut throats and starved at that by the powers." "Well, it ain't much use after all," said the young seaman. "'Tain't much use for fools, you may lay to it, that or nothing," said Silver. "But now, you look here, you're young, you are, but you're smart as paint. I see that when I set my eyes on you, and I'll talk to you like a man." Well, you may imagine how I felt when I heard this abominable old rogue addressing another in the very same words of flattery as he used to myself. I think, if I'd been able, I would have killed him through the barrel. Meantime, he ran on, little supposing he was overheard. "Here it is about gentlemen of fortune. They lives rough, and they risk swinging, but they eat and drink like fighting cocks, and when a cruise is done, why, it's hundreds of pounds instead of hundreds of farthings in their pockets. Now, the most goes for rum and a good fling, and to sea again in their shirts. But that's not the course I lay. I puts it all away, some here, some there, not too much anywheres, for reason of suspicion. I'm 50. Mark you, once back from this cruise, I set up gentlemen in earnest. Time enough, too, says you. But I've lived easy in the meantime, never denied myself a nothing heart desires, and slept soft and ate dainty all my days but when at sea. And how did I begin? Before the mast, like you." "Well," said the other, "but all the other money's gone now, ain't it? You daren't show face in Bristol after this." "Why, where might you suppose it was?" asked Silver derisively. "Well, at Bristol, in banks and places," answered his companion. "It were," said the cook, "it were when we weighed anchor. But my old missus has it all by now, and the spyglass is sold, lease and goodwill and rigging, and the girl's off to meet me. I would tell you where, for I trust you, but it'd make jealousy among the mates." "And can you trust your missus?" asked the other. Gentlemen of fortune, returned the cook, usually trust little among themselves, and right they are, as you may lay to it. But I have a way with me, I have. When a mate missteps and brings a slip on his cable, one as knows me, I mean, it won't be in the same world with old John. There was some that was feared of Pew, and some that was feared of Flint, but Flint his own self was feared of me. Feared he was, and proud. They was the roughest crew afloat, was Flint's. The devil himself would have been feared to go to sea with them. Well, now, I tell you, I'm not a boasting man, and you've seen yourself how easy I keep company, but when I was quartermaster, lambs wasn't the word for Flint's old buccaneers. Ah, you may be sure of yourself in old John's ship. Well, I tell you now, replied the lad, I didn't half a quarter like the job till I had this talk with you, John, but there's my hand on it now. And a brave lad you were, and smart too, answered Silver, shaking hands so heartily that all the barrel shook, and a finer figurehead of a gentleman of fortune I've never clapped my eyes on. By this time I had begun to understand the meaning of their terms. By a gentleman of fortune they plainly meant neither more nor less than a common pirate, and the little scene that I had overheard was the last act in the corruption of one of the honest hands, perhaps with the last one left aboard. But on this point I was soon to be relieved, for Silver giving a little whistle, a third man strolled up and sat down by the party. Dick Square, said Silver. Oh, I noted Dick was square, returned the voice of the coxswain, Israel Hands. He's no fool, is Dick. And he turned his quid and spat. But look here, he went on, here's what I want to know, Barbecue. How long are we going to stand off and on like a blessed bumboat? I had almost enough of Captain Smollett. He's hazed me long enough, by thunder. I want to go into that cabin, I do. I want their pickles and wines and all that. Israel, said Silver, your head ain't much account, nor ever was. But you're able to hear, I reckon. Well, leastways your ears is big enough. Now here's what I say. You'll berth forward, and you'll live hard, and you'll speak soft, and you'll keep sober till I give the word, and you may lay to that, my son. Well, I don't say no, do I? Growled the coxswain. What I say is when. That's what I say. When? By the powers, cried Silver. Well, now, if you want to know, I'll tell you when. The last moment I can manage, and that's when. Here's a first-rate seaman, Captain Smollett, sails. It's a blessed ship for us. Here's this squire and doctor with a map and such. I don't know where it is, do I? No more do you, says you. Well, then, I mean this squire and doctor shall find the stuff and help us to get it aboard by the powers. Then we'll see. If I was sure of you all, sons of double Dutchmen, I'd have Captain Smollett navigate us halfway back again before I struck. Why, we're all seamen aboard here, I should think, said the lad Dick. We're all forecastle hands, you mean, snapped Silver. We can steer a course, but who's to set one? That's what all you gentlemen split on first and last. If I had my way, I'd have Captain Smollett work us back into the trades at least, and then we'd have no blessed miscalculations and a spoonful of water a day. But I know the sort you are. I'll finish with him at the island as soon as the blunt's on board, and a pity it is. But you're never happy till you're drunk. Split my sides, I've a sick heart to sail with the likes of you. Easy, y'all, Long John, cried Israel. Who's a-crossing of you? Why, how many tall ships, said Silver, think ye now, have I seen laid aboard? And how many brisk lads drying in the sun at Execution Dock? And all for this same hurry and hurry and hurry? You hear me? I've seen a thing or two at sea, I have. If you would only lay your course and a pint to windward, you would ride in carriages, you would. But not you. I know you. You'll have your mouthful of rum tomorrow and go hang. Oh, well, but everybody knowed you as a kind of chaplain, John, but there's others as could hand and steer as well as you, said Israel. They liked a bit of fun, they did. They wasn't so high and dry nohow, but they took their fling, like jolly companions, everyone. So, says Silver. Well, and where are they now? Pew was that sort, and he died a bigger man. Flint was, and he died of rum at Savannah. They was a sweet crew, they was, only where are they now? But, asked Dick, when we do lay them athwart, what are we going to do with them anyhow? There's the man for me, cried the cook admiringly. That's what I call business. Well, what would you think? Put 'em ashore like maroons? That would have been England's way. Or cut 'em down like that much pork? That would have been Flint's or Billy Bones. Yeah, Billy was the man for that, said Israel. Dead men don't bite, says he. Well, he's dead now himself. He knows the long and short of it now, and if ever a rough hand should come to port, well, it was Billy. Right you are, said Silver, rough and ready. But mark you here, I'm an easy man. I'm quite the gentleman, says you, but this time it's serious. Duty is duty, mates. I give my vote, death. When I'm in Parliament and riding in my coach, I don't want none of these sea lawyers in the cabin accompanying home, unlooked for like the devil at prayers. Wait is what I say, but when the time comes, why, let her rip. John, cried the coxswain, you're a man. You'll say so, Israel, when you see, said Silver. Only one thing I claim Trelawney. I'll wring his calf's head off his body with his hands. Dick, he added, breaking off, you just jump up like a sweet lad and get me an apple to wet my pipe like. You can imagine the terror I was in. I should have leaped out and run for it if I had found the strength, but my limbs and heart alike misgave me. I heard Dick begin to rise, and then someone seemingly stopped him, and the voice of Hans exclaimed, Oh, stow that. Don't you get suck into that bilge, John. Let's have a go of the rum. Dick, said Silver, I trust you. I've a gauge on the keg, mind you. There's the key. You fill a pannikin and bring it up. Terrified as I was, I could not help thinking to myself that this must have been how Mr. Arrow got the strong waters that destroyed him. Dick was gone but a little while, and during his absence Israel spoke straight on in the cook's ear. It was but a word or two that I could catch, and yet I gathered some important news, for besides other scraps that tended to the same purpose, this whole clause was audible. Not another man of the Mulgine. Hence, there were still faithful men on board. When Dick returned, one after another the trio took the pannikin and drank, one to luck, another with a here's to old Flint, and Silver himself saying in a kind of song, here's to ourselves and hold your luff, plenty of prizes and plenty of duff. Just then a sort of brightness fell upon me in the barrel, and looking up, I found the moon had risen and was silvering the mizzen top and shining white on the luff of the foresail. And almost at the same time the voice of the lookout shouted, Land ho! End of chapter. Chapter 12. Council of War. There was a great rush of feet across the deck. I could hear people tumbling up from the cabin and the forecastle, and slipping in an instant outside my barrel, I dived behind the foresail and made a double towards the stern, and came out upon the open deck in time to join Hunter and Dr. Livesey in the rush for the weather bow. There all hands were already congregated. A belt of fog had lifted almost simultaneously with the appearance of the moon. Away to the southwest of us we saw two low hills, about a couple of miles apart, and rising behind one of them a third and higher hill, whose peak was still buried in the fog. All three seemed sharp and conical in figure. So much I saw, almost in a dream, for I had not yet recovered from my horrid fear of a minute or two before. And then I heard the voice of Captain Smollett issuing orders. The Hispaniola was laid a couple of points near the wind, and now sailed a course that would just clear the island to the east. And now, men, said the captain, when all was sheeted home, has any one of you ever seen that land ahead? I have, sir, said Silver. I've watered there with a trader I was cook in. The anchorage is on the south, behind an islet, I fancy, asked the captain. Yes, sir. Skelton Island, they calls it. It were a main place for pirates once, and a hand we had on board knowed all their names for it. That hill to the nor'ard they call the foremast hill, and there are 3 hills in a row running southward, fore, main, and mizzen, sir. But the main, that's the big one with the cloud on it, and they usually calls the spyglass, for reason of a lookout they kept when they were in anchorage cleaning, for it's there that they clean the ship, sir, asking your pardon. I have a chart here, said Captain Smollett. See if that's the place. Long John's eyes burned in his head as he took the chart, but by the fresh look of the paper I knew he was doomed to disappointment. This was not the map we found in Billy Bones's chest, but an accurate copy, complete in all things, names and heights and soundings, with the single exception of the red crosses and the written notes. Sharp as must have been his annoyance, Silver had the strength of mind to hide it. "Yes, sir," said he. "This is the spot for sure, and very prettily drawed out. Who might have done that, I wonder? The pirates were too ignorant, I reckon. Aye, here it is, Captain Kidd's Anchorage, just the name my shipmate called it. There's a strong current runs along the south, and then away nor'ard up the west coast. Right you was, sir," says he, "to haul your wind and keep the weather of the island. Leastways, if such was your intention as to enter and careen, there ain't no better place for that than these waters." "Thank you, my man," says Captain Smollett. "I'll ask you later on to give us a help. You may go." I was surprised at the coolness with which John avowed his knowledge of the island, and I own I was half frightened when I saw him drawing near to myself. He did not know, to be sure, that I had overheard his counsel from the apple barrel, and yet I had by this time taken up such a horror of his cruelty, duplicity, and power that I could scarcely conceal a shudder when he laid his hand upon my arm. "Aye," says he, "this here's a sweet spot, this island, a sweet spot for a lad to get ashore on. You'll bathe, and you'll climb trees, and you'll hunt goats, you will, and you'll get aloft on them hills like a goat yourself. Why, it makes me young again. I was going to forget my timber leg, I was. It's a pleasant thing to be young and have 10 toes, and you may lay to that. When you want to go a bit of exploring, you just ask old John, and he'll put up a snack for you to take along." And clapping me in the friendliest way upon the shoulder, he hobbled off forward and went below. Captain Smollett, the squire, and Dr. Livesey were talking together on the quarter-deck, and anxious as I was to tell them my story, I durst not interrupt them openly. While I was still casting about in my thoughts to find some probable excuse, Dr. Livesey called me to his side. He had left his pipe below, and being a slave to tobacco had meant that I should fetch it, but as soon as I was near enough to speak and not be overheard, I broke it immediately. "Doctor, let me speak. Get the captain and the squire down to the cabin, and make some pretense to send for me. I've terrible news." The doctor changed countenance a little, but next moment he was master of himself. "Thank you, Jim," he said quite loudly. "That was all I wanted to know," as if he had asked me a question. With that he turned on his heel and rejoined the other two. They spoke together for a little, and though none of them started or raised his voice or so much as whistled, it was plain enough that Dr. Livesey had communicated my request, for the next thing that I heard was the captain giving an order to Job Anderson, and all hands were piped on deck. "My lads," said Captain Smollett, "I've a word to say to you. This land that we have sighted is the place we've been sailing for. Mr. Trelawney, being a very open-handed gentleman, as we all know, has just asked me a word or two, and as I was able to tell him that every man on board has done his duty, alow and aloft, as I never asked to see it done better, why, he and I and the doctor are going below to the cabin to drink your health and luck, and you'll have grog served out for you to drink our health and luck. I'll tell you what I think of this. I think it handsome, and if you think as I do, you'll give a good sea cheer for the gentleman that does it." The cheer followed. That was a matter of course, but it rang out so full and hearty, I confess I could hardly believe these same men were plotting for our blood. "One more cheer for Captain Smollett," cried Long John, when the first had subsided, and this also was given with a will. On the top of that, the 3 gentlemen went below, and not long after, word was sent forward that Jim Hawkins was wanted in the cabin. I found them all 3 seated round the table, a bottle of Spanish wine and some raisins before them, and the doctor smoking away with his wig on his lap, and that I knew was a sign that he was agitated. The stern window was open, for it was a warm night, and you could see the moon shining behind on the ship's wake. "Now, Hawkins," said the squire, "you have something to say. Speak up." I did as I was bid, and as short as I could make it, told the whole details of Silver's conversation. Nobody interrupted me till I was done, nor did any one of the 3 of them make so much as a movement, but they kept their eyes upon my face from first to last. "Jim," said Dr. Livesey, "take a seat." And they made me sit down at table beside them, poured me out a glass of wine, filled my hands with raisins, and all 3, one after another, and each with a little bow, drank my good health and their service to me for my luck and courage. Now, Captain, said the squire, you were right and I was wrong. I own myself an ass, and I wait your orders. No more an ass than I, sir, replied the captain. I never heard of a crew that meant to mutiny, but showed signs before. For any man that had an eye had to see the mischief and take steps accordingly. But this crew, he added, beats me. Captain, said the doctor, with your permission, that's Silver, a very remarkable man. He'd look remarkably well from a yardarm, sir, returned the captain. But this is talk. This don't lead to anything. I see 3 or 4 points, and Mr. Trelawney's permission, I'll name them. You, sir, are the captain. It is for you to speak, said Mr. Trelawney grandly. Well, first point, began Mr. Smollett, we must go on, because we can't turn back. If I gave the word to go about, they would rise at once. Second point, we have time before us, at least until this treasure's found. Third point, there are faithful hands. Now, sir, it's got to come to blows sooner or later, and what I propose is to take time by the forelock, as the saying is, and come to blows some fine day when they least expect it. We can count, I take it, on your own home servants, Mr. Trelawney? As upon myself, declared the squire. 3, reckoned the captain. Ourselves make 7, counting Hawkins here. Now, about the honest hands. Well, mostly Trelawney's old men, said the doctor, those that he had picked for himself before he lit on Silver. Nay, replied the squire, Hans was one of mine. I did think I could have trusted Hans, added the captain. And to think they're all Englishmen, broke out the squire. Sir, I could find it in my heart to blow the ship up. Well, gentlemen, said the captain, the best that I can say is not much. We must lay to, if you please, and keep a bright lookout. It's trying on a man, I know. It would be pleasanter to come to blows, but there's no help for it till we know our men. Lay to and whistle for a wind, that's my view. Jim here, said the doctor, can help us more than anyone. The men are not shy with him, and Jim is a noticing lad. Hawkins, I put prodigious faith in you, added the squire. I began to feel pretty desperate at this, for I felt altogether helpless, and yet, by an odd train of circumstances, it was indeed through me that safety came. In the meantime, talk as we pleased, there were only 7 out of the 26 on whom we knew we could rely, and out of these 7, 1 was a boy, so that the grown men on our side were 6 to 19. End of chapter. The treasure hunters at least know who their enemies are now and can prepare. But the odds are very much against them so far. Just a reminder, if you subscribe to my free newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. If you enjoyed this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. Check out my other posts on my Substack, and remember to share this with your friends. Ta-ta for now.